There are certain techniques that I hate teaching to beginners. I'll try not to teach them to beginners for as long as possible. And if I do use them in a class, I'll try to keep them from doing them in sparring. It's not because they're really complicated. In fact, they're some of the simplest techniques that there are. It's not because they're risky. In fact, they're extremely low risk. They're not difficult to pull off, and they're really easy to land. In fact, all of them, if you started using them, you would start having more success in sparring. And that's kind of why I don't want you to do them. The theme of this video is going to be false positives. These are 5 techniques. Even if you do them poorly, you'll get like a good result out of them. And that's sort of the problem. Some of these are things people come already programmed wanting to do. And as we know, your instincts generally when you begin learning to fight are bad. Other ones are like, for instance, at the end, how this ends with a spinning back fist or a Superman punch. I'll go ahead and spoil the ending. And I'm going to explain why those are not risky and why beginners could use them almost immediately and spam them and have great results with them. Bear with me. The right hook, or the rear hook if you're a filthy, dirty southpaw. When we did the lead hook video, a lot of people kind of jived. A lot of people in the comments said like, yeah, actually my left hook feels pretty good. It's my rear hook that feels more awkward. It's because a lot of places you go, they don't actually teach a rear hook. Like, because this is so complicated and this is such a difficult thing to make happen for a lot of people. You know, you get really a lot of reps at the lead hook and then you forget to throw the rear hook. I'd almost rather you not. Here's the problem. Even an untrained person swinging that at you, just a wild haymaker overhand right, it's going to hurt even if you block it, right? So especially if a guy's at all athletic or strong, he might do this and good stuff happens. He might even make an amateur or professional career out of going like this and knocking people out. He might even win a world championship, but we'd much rather get newbies to straighten out their punches because that's the thing that they need help with. Making an overhand technical thing takes time, and a person should have a really fundamental understanding of punching to turn this into a tighter, more technical thing, or otherwise we get this. And guys will be swinging that at each other in sparring, maybe having success with it, and that's time and energy they're not using to get better at their good, straight punches. The other one in the same vein is a pull counter. Like, pulling your head back like that. Why? People instinctively want to lean away from punches. But what they're doing, and they might have success, a guy goes to throw a punch or a kick, and you go like this, and you move away, and the punches and kicks might not land on your face. Now I know what you're thinking. I just go to the body if a guy leans back. It'll generally be 2 guys swinging ineffectively at each other, and a guy might lean back and have success with that. But they're not actually doing a pull counter. The pull counter, this is an important detail. When I lean back, right, my hips are in front of that foot. This back foot back here. I lean back, my hips stay in front of that back foot. Why is that important? Because I have to come back forward and I have to push off of that foot to do that. That's the thing they're missing. They stand up a little taller, they lean back like this, their hips are on the other side of this foot, so if they're pushed or if they lose their balance at all, they just meander backwards like that. Now, that's counterproductive to learning. Might save you a punch here or there in the short term, but in the long term, you're not learning to hunker down, have confidence in your guard, and be aggressive. So I caution beginners against relying too heavily on the right hook or pulling back, because you're probably doing it wrong, and you need to spend those reps doing something that's maybe less comfortable, maybe less intuitive, but ultimately will make you a better fighter. Let's shift gears a little bit. This one's going to be funny. You're going to laugh. This is the front kick from the lead leg. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, Mike, that's like your favorite kick. You did a whole course. There's a link down below. A whole course on the front kick, right? Why don't we want beginners using it? I'll give you a lot of reasons. I don't like the way UFC fighters use it. Guys competing at the highest level will throw this kick. I don't know what they're throwing it at. Sometimes they even have their toes pointed. They'll do like this. You see guys competing for UFC World Championships doing that at the end of exchanges, and they go like this. Because if you just whip your foot up at people, it has an effect. You get a positive result, and I call it a false positive. The real front kick is an attack that's meant to hit someone with something, or at least feint, or at least create the idea that you would have. It's not, I'm off balance, and I'm going to do this. when we move, and we cover this in the course, I'm kind of spoiling some of it. A big part of it is we don't want to lean back and tell the person, I'm gonna kick you. The problem is you can lean back, telegraph the fact that you're gonna kick, not pull your toes back to hit with the ball of your foot, completely whiff it in the air 6 feet in front of the guy that you'd used it on, and still call that a positive result, because the guy might go like, oh snap, that guy might try to kick me if I come down the middle. To a lesser extent, particularly if we're talking up high, it's kind of hard to control this thing. It's kind of hard to back off on the power. So beginners can injure each other with it. But it's more about that first thing, like, especially if we're talking about moving forward. Because even from the days of the Gracie Stomp, people have used this kind of lunging forward. I don't want to start my exchange through head movement and footwork and cover this distance in an honest way. I just want to go, It's not what the kick is for. But you can use it that way, and it'll work. Moving on. The spinning back fist. This super risky, super technical, super advanced, complicated move. Nope. You can throw it really crappy, have amazing results. You can barely know what you're doing and wreck dudes with it, and it's not that risky. When we throw a spinning back fist, all right, whichever one we throw, I like to step through like that. I don't actually step through. I step over with this foot and throw it. Everyone says, never turn your back to your opponent, because like right now they would, what? What, dude? If we're having an exchange and I spin, like in that you have one specific instant. If you don't see it coming or predict it coming, you're not getting here before this gets there. It's just not gonna happen. Beginners and mediocre strikers can wing this thing kind of out whenever, because action almost always beats reaction. The only time that this gets countered is when the person gets lucky or they did a really good job predicting it. They're not reacting to it. There's no way that someone reacts in time to that. It's just not what's actually happening the few times you do see people get countered out of that. But here's the problem. Every time you spin, and this is the problem, you can do that technique really crappy. You can do it so terrible, and people still have to do this. Maybe if you're sparring with someone who's much better than you, he would get in there and counter that thing or stuff it or whatever. But if you're sparring someone much better than you, he was already probably beating you up other kinds of ways. Stop spinning. Please stop spinning. Throw your good stuff. Throw your fundamental stuff. Straight punches, hooks, uppercuts, round kicks. Speaking of round kicks, let's finish with the Superman punch. Not that Superman punch, not a big Roman Reigns. The Superman punch is nothing to do with the punch. Yes, it's super powerful. It covers distance safely. But that's not the key element. The key element is the kick. I know you're thinking like, what kick? That kick. A kick that hurts him. Right? Some kind of kick that causes damage so that when this foot goes like this, he goes, eh. And then when this foot goes like this, it's a punch. Doesn't have to be a huge leap. Here's the problem. You can use the Superman punch to cover ground safely while throwing a powerful punch. You can. There's not a ton of examples of people getting taken out of the air trying a Superman punch with no setup, just winging it out there. For every one that you can find thousands of examples of people getting countered while throwing a picture-perfect, well-timed jab. It's not that risky. But if you're in training and you already know that you can land a Superman punch, try not to rely on it. You teach this to beginners, everything's a Superman punch. It's constant Superman punches. They're like, oh, I don't know what to do. Superman punch. Oh, I don't know what to do. Superman jab. Right? They're just constantly Superman punching because when they do it, they get closer to their opponent, relatively unscathed because the person either has to move back, block, or address that incoming attack some kind of way. So I guess the moral of the story is Why are you throwing these techniques? Are you throwing the right hook because you've set it up and he's not expecting it? Or are you throwing the right hook because you don't know what else to do when you want the round to be over, or you want to hurt the person, or you want to stop the person? Are you pull countering because you've expertly judged his range, or maybe even forced him to throw that attack at that range and you knew what was going to happen? Or are you pulling your head back because you're scared? Which is okay, but in order to get not scared, we have to expose ourselves to the stress of those punches. Are you throwing a front kick because you want to hit someone far away and you don't want them to come close? Or are you trying to kick someone in the bladder hard enough to make them pee themselves? Are you spinning because you're desperate, or are you spinning to subvert someone's expectations? And are you throwing the Superman punch to cover distance and stay safe because you never learned how to do that with footwork and head movement? Or have you made them respect your kick so much that when you move this leg, you get a favorable reaction?